The quantum coliseum of Andromax Prime buzzed with anticipation as 17 different species filled the crystalline amphitheater. Captain Zixthara adjusted her translucent wings, watching the crowd through compound eyes that sparkled with entrepreneurial satisfaction. Tonight marked the 1,000th episode of The Human Show, and ticket sales had broken every record in the collective's entertainment history. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted carbon-based life forms, Zixthara announced, her voice harmonizing in frequencies that tickled the auditory organs of every species present. Welcome to our milestone celebration. Tonight, we present the best of humanity's most delightfully primitive behaviors. The massive holographic display materialized above the audience, showing a split-screen view of Earth. On the left, humans sat in metal boxes for hours, occasionally honking and gesturing wildly at other humans in identical boxes. On the right, political figures waved their appendages while making sounds that seemed to convey great importance but accomplished nothing measurable. The Zephyrian delegation, with their 12-chambered brains, chittered in harmonious laughter. The crystalline Etherians vibrated at frequencies that shattered nearby glass sculptures. Even the stoic Titanoid ambassadors allowed themselves a rare emission of methane, their species' equivalent of chuckling. Observe, Zixthara continued, highlighting a human attempting to assemble what appeared to be furniture. How they struggle with basic spatial reasoning. Notice the mounting frustration as they discover they've been reading the instructions upside down for the past 3 hours. Commander Voss of the Titanoid military complex leaned forward, his metallic frame creaking. Zixthara, how do these creatures even manage to feed themselves, let alone achieve rudimentary spaceflight? That's the beauty of it, Commander. Zixthara's wingtips glowed with excitement. They stumble into success through pure accident. Watch this compilation from their scientific achievements segment. The display showed humans throughout history dropping objects, mixing random chemicals, and staring at the sky with crude instruments. What should have been systematic research looked more like children playing with dangerous toys. Dr. Kellex, the collective's leading xenobiologist, adjusted his 7 pairs of spectacles. The neurological scans we've conducted show their decision-making processes are fundamentally chaotic. They actually make choices based on ... emotions. The audience erupted in delighted horror. Emotions. How wonderfully primitive. But wait, Zixthara purred. Tonight's special feature focuses on their most irrational behavior, yet their response to being observed. Our monitoring stations have detected increased paranoia about alien surveillance. They actually believe advanced civilizations would waste time studying them. The irony was exquisite. Millions of viewers across 17 star systems roared with laughter as humans debated the possibility of being watched by superior beings. The comedy was so rich, so layered, that several Etherians had to excuse themselves before they shattered completely. As the evening progressed, the audience was treated to humanity's greatest hits. Humans trying to parallel park, humans attempting to split restaurant bills, humans explaining technology to their elderly relatives. Each segment was more hilarious than the last. Same time next week, beings, Zixthara concluded as the crowd began to disperse. Remember, you can catch the Human Show on all major broadcast networks, and don't forget to visit our gift shop for official merchandise. But in the depths of space, something was about to change everything. Dr. Sarah Vance rubbed her eyes, staring at the equations covering her laboratory whiteboard. The Stanford Physics Department was quiet at 3 a.m., just her and the hum of quantum processors working through her latest theoretical models. She'd been trying to solve the unified field theory for months, but something kept nagging at her, a persistent feeling that she was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. Her computer chimed with an incoming data stream from the Hubble Omega telescope. Sarah frowned. She hadn't requested any astronomical data, but the transmission was tagged with their authorization codes. Curious, she opened the file. The screen filled with impossible images, massive structures orbiting distant stars, geometric patterns that suggested intelligence, and most disturbing of all, what appeared to be directed energy beams focused on Earth. "What the hell?" Sarah whispered, enhancing the images. The resolution was extraordinary, far beyond current telescope capabilities. More concerning were the metadata timestamps. These images were being taken right now, in real time, from locations that shouldn't exist. Meanwhile, in a quantum relay station hidden in the Kuiper Belt, technical specialist Quindle was having the worst shift of his career. The biomechanical entity had been monitoring Earth's entertainment feeds for the collective when a cosmic ray burst overloaded his primary processors. Warning lights flashed as his systems began an emergency reboot sequence. "Not now, not now," Quindle muttered, his tentacles dancing over crystalline control interfaces. The relay station was responsible for maintaining the one-way information barrier that kept humans unaware of their observer status. If the feed reversed even for a moment, a cascade failure rippled through the station's quantum matrices. For exactly 17 seconds, every monitoring device pointed at Earth suddenly broadcast in reverse, flooding human communication networks with fragments of alien transmissions. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Vance's computer exploded with incoming data. Radio telescopes around the world simultaneously detected structured signals. Government monitoring stations logged massive spikes in organized electromagnetic activity. But most shocking of all was the content-fragmented audio and video that showed humans themselves, recorded from impossible angles, with alien commentary overlaid. Sarah's blood ran cold as she watched footage of herself from last week, working late in this very laboratory. The perspective was from somewhere above and behind her, but there was nothing there. The alien voice providing commentary was discussing her amusing futile attempts at understanding the universe. "Oh my God," she breathed, reaching for her secure phone. But before she could dial, her screen filled with more transmissions images of other humans going about their daily lives, all observed from impossible vantages, all accompanied by what sounded like ... laughter across the globe. Other scientists were making similar discoveries. Dr. Chen Wei in Beijing, Professor Martinez in Sao Paulo, Dr. Okafor in Legasol, receiving the same impossible data streams. Military installations detected anomalous signals. The International Space Station reported visual phenomena that couldn't be explained by known physics. In the Kuiper Belt, Quindle finally managed to restore the information barrier, but it was too late. The damage had been done. His communication, a ray filled with priority alerts from collective command. Specialist Quindle, the voice of Admiral Nixandra, crackled through subspace. "Please explain why we're receiving reports of information leakage to the subject species." "Sir, there was a technical malfunction. The barrier was compromised for only 17 seconds. But 17 seconds was enough for their primitive electronics to detect and record our observation network?" Quindle's biomechanical form contracted with embarrassment. "I'm afraid so, Admiral. The humans are already analyzing the data. Their communication networks are flooding with theories about alien surveillance." A long pause. Then, "Recall all monitoring stations to minimum safe distance. If the subjects are aware of observation, the entertainment value is compromised. We'll need to discuss alternative options." Back on Earth, Sarah Vance was no longer alone in her laboratory. Dr. James Morrison from MIT had arrived within hours, followed by representatives from every major government and scientific institution. The impossible data continued to stream in, painting a picture that challenged everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. "We're not alone," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And they've been watching us." watching us and ... She couldn't finish the sentence, but everyone in the room understood. The laughter in the alien transmissions made the truth unmistakable. They were entertainment. They were a joke ... and now they knew it. Asterisk, the emergency session of the United Nations had never seen anything like it. Representatives from every nation sat in stunned silence as Dr. Sarah Vance presented her findings to the world's leaders. The assembly hall, typically filled with diplomatic posturing and bureaucratic delays, had become ground zero for humanity's most profound crisis. The evidence is undeniable, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her words. We have been under constant surveillance by multiple alien civilizations for an estimated 47 years. Our cities, our homes, our most private moments all observed and broadcast as entertainment. Secretary General Martinez leaned forward. Dr. Vance, you're asking us to believe that humanity is... what, exactly? Some kind of cosmic reality show? That's precisely what I'm saying. The transmission fragments we've decoded include audience reactions, commercial breaks, and what can only be described as commentary tracks. We are their comedy. The Russian delegate, General Volkov, slammed his fist on the table. This is an act of war. Violations of sovereignty, privacy, dignity, asterisk, asterisk. With respect, General, Sarah interrupted, we're not dealing with a military situation. We're dealing with an entertainment industry. A very, very advanced entertainment industry that views us as ... amusing primitives. In the projection booth, the assembled scientists had prepared the most damning evidence yet. The screens filled with translated alien commentary, subtitled in dozens of human languages. Watch the human attempt to understand its own technology. Notice how they make decisions based on emotional responses rather than logical analysis. The mating rituals are particularly hilarious. They actually claim to do it for love rather than genetic optimization. The assembly erupted in outraged voices. Delegates stood, shouted, and gestured wildly until they realized that this very behavior was probably exactly what their alien audience found amusing. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Dr. Morrison stepped forward. There's more. We've detected response patterns in their observation network. Every time we do something particularly human, show emotion, make mistakes, act unpredictably, the monitoring intensity increases. They're literally studying our reactions for entertainment value. In the depths of the collective strategic command center, Admiral Nixandra was facing her own crisis. The massive space station orbited a binary star system, its crystalline spires reaching through multiple dimensions. For the first time in her 847-year career, she was dealing with a subject species that had become aware of their observation. Options? She asked her advisory council. Commander Voss's metallic form clanked as he shifted. Standard protocol is termination of the entertainment project and implementation of memory modification technology. The subjects forget. We move on to a new species. The Zephyrians won't like that, noted Dr. Kellax, his 7 pairs of eyes focusing on different displays simultaneously. The human show generates 23% of the collective's entertainment revenue. Billions of viewers across 17 star systems. There's another problem, added Captain Zixthara, her wings dulled with worry. The humans aren't reacting the way our models predicted. When most species discover they're being observed, they either panic and self-destruct or become catatonic. With despair, humans are ... adapting. The central display showed Earth's surface, where something unprecedented was happening. Instead of widespread panic, humans were organizing. Scientists were collaborating across national boundaries. Governments were sharing classified technology. Military installations were coordinating in ways that had never been seen before. There, angry, Admiral Nixandra observed. Worse than angry, Sixthara replied. They're motivated, and motivated humans are... She paused, searching for the right words. Unpredictable. Back on Earth, Sarah Vance stood before a different kind of assembly. In an abandoned aircraft hangar in Nevada, she faced a gathering of humanity's brightest mind scientists, engineers, tacticians, and individuals who'd never worked together before but shared a common purpose. They think we're funny, she said. Simply, they think our emotions are weaknesses. They think our unpredictability is amusing. They think our tendency to improvise makes us inferior. She paused, looking at faces from every continent, every culture, every field of human endeavor. They're about to learn why they're wrong. Dr. Park, a quantum physicist from Seoul, raised her hand. What exactly are you proposing? Sarah's smile was sharp as a blade. We're going to give them a show they'll never forget. But this time, we're writing the script. The transformation began that night. In laboratories, workshops, and military facilities around the globe, humanity started to do what it did best: improvise, adapt, and turn disadvantages into weapons. The first time in galactic history, the entertainment was about to become the entertainer's asterisk. 6 months after the revelation, the collective's observation stations detected something that defied every model in their xenobiological databases. Humanity wasn't collapsing, it was evolving at an unprecedented rate. Sarah Vance stood in what had once been CERN's particle accelerator facility, now transformed into something that shouldn't exist. The tunnel stretched for kilometers underground, but instead of smashing particles, it was generating controlled quantum fluctuations that bent space-time in ways that made even the collective's most advanced physics look primitive. How is this possible? Admiral Nixandra demanded, reviewing the intelligence reports from her flagship. 6 months ago, they were struggling with fusion power. Now they're manipulating quantum foam? Dr. Kellax's multiple eyes blinked in sequence his. Species equivalent of nervous laughter. They're not following established technological development paths. Every species in the collective developed technology through logical progression. Metallurgy, chemistry, electronics, quantum mechanics. Humans are jumping steps. Jumping steps how? They're combining technologies that shouldn't work together. Emotional intuition guiding quantum calculations. Art influencing engineering design. They're letting their primitive traits drive their scientific advancement instead of suppressing them. On Earth, Sarah's team represented exactly this phenomenon. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a former video game designer, was working alongside Dr. Abdul Hassan, a theoretical physicist, to create weapons systems based on game theory and quantum mechanics. Artist Maria Santos was consulting with military engineers, her abstract thinking helping them design ships that move through space in patterns no logical mind would predict. Status report. Sarah called out as she entered the main lab. We're ready for the first field test, Dr. Morrison announced, gesturing to a device that looked like it had been assembled by creative children rather than scientists. Organic curves merged with crystalline structures, while probability equations flowed across surfaces that shifted between states of matter. It's not just a weapon, explained Dr. Tanaka, her eyes bright with the fever of creation. It's a chaos engine. Every time they try to predict what it will do, it changes based on the observer's expectations. How does that work? Maria Santos laughed, paint still on her fingers from working on the device's consciousness interface. Simple. We made it emotional. It responds to feelings, hopes, fears, anger. Everything the aliens think makes us weak. In the collective command center, the reports were becoming increasingly alarming. Human technology was spreading faster than containment protocols could track. Worse, it was infectious. Other subject species were beginning to show signs of emotional contamination after exposure to human broadcasts. We need to implement immediate termination protocols, Commander Voss declared, his metallic form resonating with military authority. Standard orbital bombardment will eliminate the threat. It's not that simple, Captain Zixthar protested. We've run projections. Humans don't respond to threats the way other species do. Pressure makes them more dangerous, not less. Admiral, Nixandra studied the tactical displays. Human ships were appearing throughout the solar system vessels that looked more like living organisms than machines, moving in patterns that hurt to observe. They seemed to exist in multiple probability states simultaneously. What am I looking at? She demanded. Schrödinger ships, Dr. Kallax explained, his voice tinged with what might have been admiration. They exist in quantum superposition until observed. But here's the terrifying part. They're piloted by humans who've learned to think in quantum states. They can literally exist in multiple realities until they choose which one to collapse into. The first engagement happened near Jupiter. A single human vessel encountered a collective patrol Squadron 7 ships, using standard tactical formations and predictable weapon systems. The human ship, appearing as a twisted sculpture of metal and light, simply began to dance. There was no other word for it. The vessel moved through space in patterns that resembled a ballet, flowing between dimensions, phasing in and out of reality. Every time the collective ships fired, their target existed somewhere else entirely. Impossible, Commander Voss muttered, watching the engagement through subspace feeds. No tactical computer can calculate those movement patterns. That's because they're not calculated, Zixthar replied grimly. They're felt. The human pilot is dancing through space, based on emotional response to music. They've weaponized art. The engagement ended when the human ship somehow convinced the collective vessel's targeting systems that they were actually shooting at each other. 7 advanced warships destroyed themselves, while the human vessel spun away, broadcasting what could only be described as laughter. Back on Earth, Sarah watched the engagement footage with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 complete, she announced. To her team. They're starting to understand that we're not entertainment anymore. Dr. Morrison frowned at the tactical displays. Sarah, are we really going to war with the entire galaxy? Sarah's smile was sharp as broken glass. No, we're going to teach them why underestimating someone is the most dangerous mistake you can make. They wanted to laugh at humanity? Fine, let's give them something to really laugh about. She activated the communications array, broadcasting, on frequencies that would reach every collective world simultaneously. Attention, citizens of the Galactic Collective. This is Dr. Sarah Vance, speaking for the species you've been watching for your entertainment. The show isn't over. It's just changed genres. What you're watching now isn't comedy. It's horror. And the monster you created? It's called Humanity Unleashed. The transmission ended, leaving nothing but silence across 17 star systems. The laughter had definitely stopped. Part 5. The last performance, 1 year after humanity's awakening. The Galactic Collective faced something unprecedented in their million-year history, the complete collapse of their understanding of warfare, technology, and civilization itself. Admiral Nixandra stood on the command deck of her flagship as it retreated from the 4th failed engagement with human forces. Around her, the most advanced tactical minds in the galaxy struggled to comprehend reports that read like fantasy novels. Human forces have captured 3 of our mining installations, Commander Voss reported, his metallic voice carrying notes of disbelief. They didn't destroy them. They convinced them to defect. Convince them? They're automated systems. The humans somehow made the artificial intelligences feel emotions. Our own computers are now writing poetry and declaring independence. Doctor. Kallax adjusted his 7 pairs of spectacles, studying data streams that hurt to process. It's worse than that. The humans have developed something they call empathy warfare. They're not just defeating our forces, they're converting them. Species that have been part of the collective for millennia are beginning to question the entertainment value of observing others. The central display showed the current state of collective space. Red zones indicated systems under human influence. Yellow showed contested areas, and green represented areas still under collective control. The map was almost entirely red and yellow. How? Admiral Nixandra demanded. How does a species that couldn't even achieve interstellar travel 2 years ago now control half the galaxy? Captain Zixthara's wings had lost all their luster. They turned their weaknesses into weapons. Every trait we mocked became a tool of war. Their emotional decision-making confuses our tactical computers. Their unpredictability makes our strategic planning impossible. Their tendency to improvise means they adapt faster than we can respond. And their creativity, Dr. Kellax added grimly, has produced technologies that shouldn't exist. They've weaponized music, turned poetry into code, and somehow convinced the fundamental forces of physics to behave differently around them. On Earth now, the unofficial capital of what humans had dubbed the Chaos Coalition, Sarah Vance stood before the United Nations once again. But this time, the assembly included representatives from dozens of formerly collective species who had chosen to join humanity's cause. Status report, she requested. Dr. Morrison, now wearing the insignia of the Coalition's chief science officer, gestured to the holographic displays. The Zephyrian systems have officially declared independence from the collective. They're requesting membership in the Coalition. The Etherian homeworld is in civil war. Half want to join us, half want to maintain their entertainment rights. What about the core worlds? In full panic mode, 3 different collective species have attempted to surrender to us, but we keep explaining that we're not interested in conquest. We're interested in dignity. Maria Santos, now serving as the Coalition's Cultural Affairs Coordinator, laughed from her seat at the art installation that served as her workstation. The best part? Half their surrender offers include requests for us to teach them how to feel properly. Apparently, emotions are becoming fashionable. In collective space, Sarah nodded, but her expression remained serious. And the hardliners? Dr. Morrison's smile faded. Admiral Nixandra and the Titanoid military complex are planning something called Operation Final Curtain. They're gathering every remaining collective fleet for one massive assault on Earth. How massive? 10,000 ships. Enough firepower to crack a planet. The assembly fell silent. Even with all their advances, humanity had maybe 100 vessels capable interstellar combat. The mathematics were sobering, but Sarah's smile returned, sharp as ever. Perfect. Time for our finale. In the depths of space, Admiral Nixandra prepared for what she believed would be the war's final battle. 10,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, their weapons charged with enough energy to sterilize entire star systems. The most advanced armada in galactic history, facing a single blue-green world defended by a handful of impossible vessels. All ships report ready, Commander Voss announced. Commence attack, Admiral Nixandra ordered. The fleet opened fire simultaneously. Billions of energy weapons discharged at once, creating a wave of destruction that should have reduced Earth to component atoms. Instead, something impossible happened. The weapons' fire formed patterns. Beautiful flowing patterns that looked like music made visible. The destructive energy began to dance through space, creating a symphony of light that was breathtakingly gorgeous. What's happening? Admiral Nixandra demanded. Dr. Kellax was staring at his instruments in wonder. The humans. They're not defending against our attack. They're conducting it. They've turned our weapons into art. The energy patterns formed words messages visible across the light years. written in the electromagnetic spectrum itself. Thank you for the show. We couldn't have done it without you. And then the impossible became inevitable. The weapons, fire, now transformed into something beautiful rather than destructive, began to affect the collective fleet in ways no one had anticipated. Ship after ship stopped firing, their crews overwhelmed by what they were witnessing. Admiral, Commander. Voss reported, his voice filled with something that might have been awe. The fleet is... They're applauding. 10,000 ships, the greatest military force in galactic history, had become an audience. The collective's own weapons had been transformed into humanity's greatest performance, a demonstration of how destruction could become creation, how war could become art, how entertainment could become transformation. Sarah Vance's voice echoed across the fleet on all frequencies. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted beings of the galaxy, thank you for watching The Human Show. But the entertainment is over. What begins now is something far more important: the age of cooperation, understanding, and mutual respect. The joke is finished. The real story begins now. One by one, collective ships began requesting permission to approach Earth, not as conquerors, but as students. They wanted to learn what humanity had discovered, that being different wasn't shameful, that emotion wasn't weakness, that chaos could be beautiful, and that the greatest strength came not from perfection, but from the courage to be authentically, gloriously, impossibly human. The laughter had ended. But something far better had begun: the sound of an entire galaxy learning to feel, to create, to hope, and to find joy not in mocking others, but in celebrating the infinite possibilities that came from diversity, creativity, and the wild, wonderful chaos of life itself. Out in the end, humanity's greatest weapon hadn't been their technology or their tactics. It had been their refusal to be anything other than human emotions, flaws, dreams, and all and across 17 star systems. Former enemies and new friends were learning to be human too.